Developer ready to hand over deed restrictions to your local supervisor. Suspect in the kidnapping case in the Villages has entered a plea in court. A former New York college coach back home after violating his sex offender violation. Are adult children casting an ugly shadow over Florida's friendliest hometown? A villager was sentenced after attacks at Lake Sumter Landing night spots. A villager's peaceful water view was ruined by a neighbor with obnoxious lights. Villagers question the $11 million in amenity money to be spent on golf courses. A villager jailed after allegedly chest bumping his wife. A villager operating a business at his home under more pressure from the county. The story of Loafer, the alligator. How many holes in one's golf did we get this week? Letters to the editor. This and more coming up. A suspect involved in a standoff last week in the Villages has entered a plea in court in connection with the case. James Savage, 54, entered a plea of not guilty in Marion County Court on Wednesday in connection with the case in which he surrendered this past Saturday at a home in the village of Chatham. Savage continues to be held without bond at the Marion County Jail. How do you plead not guilty? He was on video camera. Another update. You guys will remember these pictures, I'm sure, if you've been watching me long enough. A sex offender who lives with his mother in the village has been jailed without bond after violating his probation. Edward Charles Wardingley, 63, who lives at 1312 La Estrelita Way in the village of Santiago, was booked Wednesday night at the Sumter County Detention Center. Wardingley was convicted in 2018 of lewd and lascivious molestation of a victim between the ages of 12 and 15. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison and was to remain on felony probation through 2031. A former New York college coach convicted in a video scandal is back home with his parents in the village after violating his sex offender probation. Richard Gard Kelly, 53, was arrested Wednesday for violating his sex offender probation. He was released Friday from the Sumter County Detention Center after posting a $1,000 bond. Earlier this year, he registered a permanent address at 1311 La Estrelita Way in the village of Santiago, according to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. A villager has been sentenced in connection with 2 attacks at Lake Sumter Landing's night spots. Stephen Edward Surro, 73, of the village of Tamarind Grove, has been placed on probation for 1 year after pleading no contest to 2 counts of battery in Sumter County. And one more update. A Pennsylvania snowbird has been sentenced after crashing his Mercedes in a roundabout in the Villages. Thomas Allen Richard, 74, of the village of Monarch Grove, pleaded no contest this week in Sumter County Court to a charge of driving under the influence. He will lose his driver's license for 6 months, had been placed on probation for 1 year, and has been ordered to perform 50 hours of community service. Villager Jim Christie contends that adult children are causing an ugly shadow over Florida's friendliest hometown. Nearly every day we read in this online news site about many of these children committing crimes. They mooch off their parents. Let's face it, if it were children as truly defined by a young age, it wouldn't be much of a problem. However, we all know these so-called children are grown adults who don't want to be responsible for themselves and prefer to let their parents give them a place to live. Many are addicts who are committing crimes to get their next fix. We usually don't know them until we see their faces after being arrested for some crimes or outlandish behavior. Problem children leap into the headlines after an altercation in a home, drug arrest, or a theft somewhere in the community. Not far from where Christie lives, a 47-year-old son was arrested this past week in an attack on his parents at their home in the village of Caroline. The altercation sent their father to UF Health at Leesburg Hospital. David Ruthland had been arrested last year after an attack on a woman who tried to get him to check into rehab. Jeffrey Packard, 37, is probably bound for the Problem Child Hall of Fame in our 55-plus community. He'd already had a couple of arrests and racked up more than $50,000 in fines at his mother's house in the village of Sunset Point. Thanks to his hoarding and other behavior, His mother told Community Development District 5 officials and her neighbors that her son wanted to kill her and held her as a prisoner in her own home for 2 years. Packer remains free on bond and has been ordered to stay away from his mother's home. Thomas Leopold Malinsky, 43, was arrested on Super Bowl Sunday after throwing a pillow at his mother at their home in the village of Winifred. His mother told Sumter County Sheriff's deputies that her son became irate when she would not give him money to buy marijuana. He was arrested on a felony charge of battery on a person over the age of 65. However, the prosecutor's office has announced that it has dropped the case, something that generally occurs when the victim indicates the lack of a desire to cooperate in the prosecution of the arrestee. In other words, mommy and daddy won't file charges. They got to protect him because he's always been such a good boy. An official of the villages wants to hear from residents about the developer's desire to hand over to community development districts the responsibilities for enforcement of deed restrictions against children in their homes. Community Development District 2 Supervisor Tom Sweers will host a question and answer session on the topic from 7 to 9 p.m. Tuesday at El Santiago Recreation Center. Community Development District 4 set the discussion in motion with the developer about possibly taking over responsibility for enforcement of internal deed restrictions, including rules against children living full-time in homes in the villages and against running a business in a home. It was recently revealed that the developer is interested in handing off the enforcement of the internal deed restrictions to the CDDs, probably because it'll save him money. Villagers has indicated they are suspicious about the developer's desire to rid himself of the internal deed restriction responsibilities and worried about the potential increase in cost from residents. This will be very unwise for the homeowners as the boards are already struggling with infractions. Also, legal fees will be dumped on homeowners, increasing fees. The developer set up the villages with these deed restrictions. They need to be vigilant and enforce them, said Kathy Kaminsky of the village of St. James. Villager John Kane is also leery about such a major change. Seems as if the developer again is looking to hand over expenses to the residents. Robert Basai of the village of Piedmont is also urging officials to exercise caution before accepting the enforcement responsibilities. It is the developer's responsibility to enforce internal deed restrictions. CDD should not take over. I just say tread with caution. But I've just seen some unsavory things happen, and so I would be very leery. Howard Crostick had a peaceful view of the Lake Laguna in the village of Mir Mesa. However, that beautiful view has been ruined by his neighbor's obnoxious lights. It's gotten so bad that Crostick had to install thermal curtains to keep the powerful lights from intruding into the interior of his home. The neighbor has reportedly strung up about a dozen powerful lights. They come on before sunset and stay on all night. Why would they be on all night? Are you scared of the dark? Crostick checked the deed restrictions for the Lady Lake County portion of the villages and believed it was an open and shut case. The deed restrictions for his area state that exterior lighting must be shaded so as not to create a nuisance to others. That might be what the deed restriction says, but as I've said on this show 100 times, ask the question, who enforces that restriction? Who enforces that rule? Crostick called community standards and reported that he believed to be a violation of the deed restriction. Crostick went to the extra mile and provided his name to community standards. So he was astonished when community standard refused to address the issue. Crostick's little slice of paradise has been lost. And I've seen this happen more and more and more. Rules are rules, and they mean nothing when nobody enforces them. Here's another update. A bond hearing has been set for a villager facing 30 counts of possession of child pornography. Michael Henry Roseman, 69, of the village of Bradford, has been held without bond at the Sumter County Detention Center since March 5 arrest. A hearing on the motion for the bond reduction has been set for April 17 in Sumter County Court. When he filed the motion, Roseman's attorney pointed out that Roseman has no prior criminal history, will make himself available should he be required to appear in court, and submit to any pretrial release conditions set by the judge. Yes, many of our golf courses, both championship and executive, are in poor condition. Villagers are beginning to question more than $11 million in amenity money to be spent on executive golf courses here in Florida's friendliest hometown. For months, golfers have been complaining about atrocious conditions of golf courses here in the villages. Earlier this month, top officials overseeing golf admitted they had failed in not taking action sooner, such as closing down the courses. The Amenity Authority Committee, which oversees amenities north of County Road 466, earlier this month discussed $4.56 million for renovations of courses, including the Walnut Grove Executive Golf Course and the Della Vista Executive Golf Course. Meanwhile, members of the project-wide advisory committee, which oversees amenities south of County Road 466, met Monday to discuss spending more than $7 million to renovate courses and fund a new manager position in the golf division. Heron, Bacall, Bogart, Bonita Pass, and Truman. By the way, I believe that new golf course manager used to be on the payroll of the developer, and then he pushed it over to us, so now we're making the payments here for his salary. So they work for us, but the developer tells them what to do and how to do. Just amazes me. Gerald Herzl of the Village of Pennycamp questions the project's $7 million expenditure by PWAC. Yes, many of our courses, both championship and executives, are in poor condition, but to approve a $7 million expenditure to repair a small number of courses is nothing more than putting a Band-Aid on a much larger problem. He called for a comprehensive strategy. If $7 million is needed for 5 courses, then what would it take for the rest? And the bigger question is, who pays for it? Well, we are. Put together a team, including the right mix of experts, and do it right. We can't afford that. Vernon Hodgson of the Village of Sanibel was left scratching his head after reading the proposal that the AAC spending $1.5 million for a golf maintenance building at the Mir Mesa Executive Golf Course. I was reading the article about the request for $4.56 million for the golf course renovation, and then I see a request for $1.5 million for a maintenance building so a contractor can store his equipment, and the picture showed 8 riding lawnmowers and a trailer sitting outside. Now, why the heck would we be spending $1.5 million to store a contractor's equipment? If the contractor wants to put his equipment inside somewhere, maybe he should build his own building. Question. Food for thought. What if the developer here owns a company that is taking care of our golf courses? Just a thought. Hodgson, who has lived here in the villages since 2007, says he has seen more and more wasteful spending through the years. Maybe we should spend more money on more competent people. This is just ridiculous, he said. Fix the golf courses. Let the contractors take care of their own equipment. Follow the money and you'll find the truth. A villager was jailed after allegedly chest bumping his wife after she confronted him about his drinking. John Martin Moberg, 63, was taken into custody on a charge of battery at about 10 p.m. Saturday at his home in the village of Santo Domingo. Santo Domingo, that's a nice neighborhood. I like it. The Ohio native had been drinking, which prompted an argument between he and his wife, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. Moberg, who stands 6 feet tall and weighs 200 pounds, chest bumped his wife during an argument. I'm not laughing at the fight. I'm wandering again. He also used his hands to push her chest. He was taken into custody and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. He was released after posting a $1,000 bond. Moberg and his wife purchased their home in 2022. A new state law would give Tallahassee more control over short-term rentals, including Airbnbs, which have become a scourge of many neighborhoods in the villages. Dominic Tuffarillo of the village of Pine Ridge fears that the short-term rental market has taken a toll on the lifestyle of the villages. People coming for 2 or 3 days, trashing in place, bringing all kinds of people, trash into parties for 2 and 3 days, and then leaving. When will the village's staff and administrations review this and put some kind of restrictions in place? They have. They're in place, called your deed restrictions. Then they got these internal deed restrictions, which I don't know what all that is. The residents are worried, Tuffarillo said. Question's always been, who's going to enforce them? The state Senate recently passed a bill that would impose limits on short-term vacation rentals, including limiting the number of people who can stay in the rental and require the homeowner of the rental unit to properly register with local authorities. The rental property would also be required to have an emergency contact available around the clock should a problem arise. The state law would supersede any local measures governing short-term rentals. Local Senators Dennis Baxley and Blaise Igaglia both voted for the measure. Villagers have complained that the growing numbers of Airbnbs and VRBOs in Florida's friendliest hometown have attracted parties who flout the rules, invade the pools, and leave behind trash and ruin neighborhoods. Well, there are certain rules about renting your house out anyway. I've always questioned the Airbnb, not because the Airbnbs is a problem. I'm just questioning the owners that own the so-called Airbnbs. The rules here are, as a resident, you own a house, you become a resident of the villages, you have a resident pass. You rent your house out, you have to physically turn in your resident pass and fill out paperwork with the name and the arrival dates and the departure dates, how many people are coming to rent your house in what month. I mean, that's always been the rule. That's what I had to do when I rented my place out. So I wonder, when people own an Airbnb and they live 10 states away, how are they doing that? That just shows me right away that there's a lot of rule breaking going on there. A woman who resides in the village of St. James has been arrested on a warrant charging her with drunk driving in connection with a 2023 handicap parking incident. Julia Marie Seltz, 32, was taken into custody this past week by Wildwood police on a Lake County warrant. Seltz, who has been found at about 4 p.m. October the 20th in a red 2019 Chevy passenger car in a handicapped parking spot on Market Street in downtown Leesburg, according to the affidavit of probable cause from the Leesburg Police Department. She was slumped over the wheel and appeared to be sleeping. The vehicle was running and the transmission was in drive. She had a strong odor of alcohol, and an empty bottle of Fireball whiskey was found in the front passenger seat. EMS personnel arrived at the scene and transported Self to UF Health Leesburg Hospital. The police officer completed a medical subpoena. The records came back from the hospital. The officer learned that Self had a blood alcohol level of, oh my God, 0.335 on the day of the incident. A warrant was issued for her arrest. Self remains free on a $1,000 bond. Young lady, in case you don't know it, you were so close to alcohol poisoning, you could have been dead if they hadn't found you. That police officer probably saved your life. Wildwood Commissioners Monday night approved a 200-bed assisted living center north of the curve on County Road 462 east of US 301. They endorsed a comprehensive plan amendment and a zoning change to institutional from low-medium density residential. The project of Lean Nails could have up to 4 units per acre on nearly 10 acres. Access to the property will be from County Road 121 as well as County Road 462. A traffic analysis estimated the project will generate 652 daily trips. Danielle Moore, who lives on County Road 121, told commissioners she is concerned about the additional traffic. She said, traffic on her road already is heavy at times with frequent speeding. City Development Director Melanie Strickland said letters were received both favoring and opposing the development. She said the assisted living center is likely to generate less traffic than housing. A site plan will provide more information about access and potential traffic impacts. Located at 3606 Wedgwood Lane in the Villages, Lean Nails LLC began operation in 2011. Wedgwood Lane, by the way, those of you that's kind of familiar, it's up there by the Southern Trace Shopping Center. An unlicensed driver from Mexico was arrested after a vehicle crash in Lady Lake. Armando Gutierrez Rubio, 29 of Lady Lake, was driving a blue Toyota sedan at about 1:30 p.m. Friday when he was involved in a collision near the intersection of Highway 27441 and Hermosa Street, according to the arrest report from Lady Lake Police Department. A translator assisted the officer investigating the crash. Gutierrez Rubio handed the officer a Mexican driver's license and admitted he has not obtained a driver's license in the United States. Why not? Tell us. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license. He was booked at the Lake County Jail and released after posting a $500 bond. Again, what happened to the car? Did he have insurance? Was it towed? Without a driver's license, he can't drive the car home.
Are you planning on having your driveway redone, having your garage floor epoxied, having a custom design in mind? Call B&D Concrete Creations. If you are new to the Villages, B&D is the one I used and many others has also. Every driveway you see here is a custom design. Any type of design you'd like, you pick out the colors. he'll do it. Romaldo is very reliable and very dependable. He's got a crew of guys that respects your property, and they won't cause any damage whatsoever. Have any questions? Call Romaldo. Free estimates. He'll leave the catalog. If you don't know what you want, have no idea about a design, he'll leave the catalog, and you can keep it for a couple of days. Go through it. Look at the designs. If you see one or two in there that looks like it fits your bill, you can even tweak it. So just call Romaldo. Make the appointment. He'll come meet you. He's a really nice guy to talk to. He's really busy, but of all the people that I have, Romaldo's the one that I can recommend. Give him a call. Let him come out. Let him talk to you. Show him what you want. He'll work with you. He'll do you a good job, and his prices are reasonable and fair. Tell him I sent you. That's B&D Concrete Creations, LLC. Beautiful designed driveways, walkway, pool decks, patios, garage epoxy, and much, much more. He's licensed and insured. Call Romaldo Mawire, 352-455-9614. Or you can go to his website, bndconcretecreations.com. Give him a call. He's good people.
Hello, my name is Romaldo. The company's name is B&D Concrete Creations, LLC. You call me, my phone number is 352-455-96. Anytime, free estimate.
Sumter County is seeking a permanent injunction to close down a golf cart repair and resale business operating out of the villages of Sanibel Home. Last month, commissioners authorized County Attorney Jennifer Ray to request an injunction against the business, which has operated off and on since 2016. Charles Abasali is the owner of the home at 834 Journey Lane. He was served a summons on March 14th and has 20 days to respond. A summons also is issued for a spouse or unknown associates, but Abasali says he lives alone and is not married. Neighbors told commissioners last month that sometimes a dozen or more golf carts are parked in a driveway or in the street. Ray's complaint seeking the injunction describes repeated unsuccessful attempts to close the business by the county and the villages over the past 8 years. The county attorney wrote that Abasali has demonstrated a flagrant disregard for Sumter County code. Defendants has established a pattern of resuming the operation of the golf cart repair and resale business after each code enforcement action has been resolved, despite having full knowledge that the operation is not permissible use. The villages served notice 6 times between 2016 and January that the golf cart business violates deed restrictions. The county brought code enforcement actions in 2018, 19, 22, and 23. Each time the business ceased operation temporarily. Sumter County is seeking a temporary injunction to close the business until the right to a permanent injunction is determined. It also is seeking a daily fine of $50 for violation of the injunction, damages, and attorney fees. You got the county involved now, Mr. Abasali. If I was you, I'd find me a place to go rent and move on. A villager who drank margaritas was arrested after leaving a country club. A woman who had been in the bar at the Glenview Country Club, I like Glenview. It's the original country club that was there before the villages even built. On Tuesday night, dialed 911 after she saw a man later identified as 71-year-old Joseph David Koch Jr. of the village of Summerhill walking out to the country club, heading to the parking lot. The woman told a dispatcher that Koch was possibly too intoxicated to drive safely. She said Koch was stumbling when he walked into a golf cart and staggered to his vehicle when he got into the driver's seat. A deputy arrived on the scene and found Koch at the wheel of a red 2020 Toyota RAV4 as he was leaving the parking lot. When the deputy initiated a traffic stop and approached the vehicle, he could immediately smell a strong odor of alcoholic beverage. Koch told the deputy he was having a bad day because his girlfriend was flying out to help her boyfriend who was dying of cancer. Koch said he had offered to fly out with his girlfriend, but she said no. He said he went to the country club and consumed 3 margaritas. During field sobriety exercises, Koch fell to the ground due to his intoxication level. He provided breath samples that registered .180 and .174 blood alcohol content. A search of his vehicle turned up 3 unopened Sutter Home brand lemonade wine cocktail bottles in a plastic bag. Koch was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence. He was booked at Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $750 bond. An unlicensed Venezuelan driver claimed he has been driving for a ride-share app when he was arrested after traffic stop at, let's say it together, Wawa, in Oxford. Miguel Eduardo Ordonez Parra, name will be on the picture, 27 of Ocala, was driving a silver 2003 Toyota Camry with a temporary license plate shortly before 8 p.m. when a deputy run the temporary number and found it was not on file with the state, according to the arrest report. A traffic stop was initiated at the Wawa on County Road 466 and US 301. A bilingual deputy responded to the scene to provide translation. If you can't speak English, how in the hell do you run a ride-share service? Seriously, if I was looking for ride-share and he'd show up, I'd just say, move on. I ain't getting in. Ordonez Parra said he has been in the United States for about 40 days and intended to apply for a work permit visa. He claimed that since he arrived in the United States, he's been driving for a rideshare app company, but didn't know the actual name of the app. It's on your phone, dude. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a whopping $150 bond, which means it cost him $15. Well, it's alligator mating time of the year again, and this is the time of year that a lot of pictures come in about alligators. I only picked one because he's a neighborhood favorite. Every neighborhood will have a large pond, most neighborhoods do, and in there will be an alligator when everybody moved in, and they watched him grow, or her, and they name it. And that's fine. I got no problem with neighborhood-friendly people adopting wild animals, as long as they leave them wild. An alligator named Loafer, who lives in a pond in the village of Pennycamp, has become a favorite of residents. Loafer is named after our social group, the Penny Loafers. That's cool. Pennycamp, Penny Loafers. And because he loafs on the bank most of the time sunning himself, during mating season, Loafer leaves for a while, looking for love, and eventually returns, said Eileen Whitmer of the village of Pennycamp, who submitted the photo. By the way, you can submit photos or letters to the editor or anything else for that matter, holes and ones, to thevillagesnews.com. So that's where I get a lot of this news in case you're interested. Well, I wonder how many holes and ones we had this week. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, my Lord. Looks like 7. Cool. A Village of Liberty Park man was thrilled to get his recent hole-in-one. David Belfatti scored the lucky ace at hole number 8 at the Turtle Mound Executive Golf Course at 110 yards using an 8-iron. Way to go, David. Congratulations on your hole-in-one. Richard Donaldson got his 3rd hole-in-one on Monday, March 25, while golfing at the Roosevelt Executive Golf Course. He scored the lucky ace at hole number 5 with a 4-iron. Congratulations on your hole-in-one, Richard. Barbara Patty got her first hole-in-one on March 19th at hole number 1 at the Okeechobee Executive Golf Course. I liked Okeechobee. That's probably 2 of my favorite out of 6, Okeechobee and Escambia. I like both of them. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one, Barbara. David Woodcock got his first hole-in-one on March 16th at Orange Blossom Hills Country Club while playing with good friends on hole number 14. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one, David. Beer's on you, buddy, when you get to the clubhouse. Barb Sturdivant from the village of Bradford celebrated her first hole-in-one on March 20th at Bonifay on the Fort Walton part of the golf course. It's Country Club. She scored the lucky ace at hole number 2 at 108 yards with a 5-wood. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one, Barb. Chris Goebel of the village of Hawkins got his 2nd hole-in-one Tuesday at hole number 1 at the Mickey Lee Pitch and Putt Golf Course. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one, Chris. Carl Philhart of the village of Pine Ridge recently scored his 2nd hole-in-one since moving to the villages in September. He got the 2nd lucky ace at hole number 2 at Richmond's Pitch and Putts. His previous hole-in-one was at the Mickey Lee Pitch and Putt. Congratulations on your 2nd hole-in-one, Carl. All right, we got one more, so we have a total of 8. Robert Garcia got a hole-in-one at the Marsh View Pitch and Putt on the 15th hole. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one there, Robert. To the editor, is a developer suddenly broke? Why is the developer suddenly looking for questionably legal ways to transfer its longtime village's financial responsibilities to the districts? Why are their lawyers focusing on ways to cut costs? Showing symptoms of a sinking ship is not a good way to inspire prospective new homebuyer confidence. As sent in by Lisa Anders from the village of Chatham. Well, thank you, Lisa. To the editor, my husband proudly served in the U.S. Navy. We currently fly the official Navy flag below the Stars and Stripes. Why would you want to take the freedom to show his service away from him? I think the question that needs to be asked is, why do you want to push your choice on someone else? We all have things we like and don't like and find offensive. As long as it is not hurting or restricting our daily activities, we just comment on it and move on. That's the price of freedom. That's sent in by Virginia Jacobs from the village of Tamarind Grove. Well, Virginia, I have no problem with what you said at all, except one thing. You're misinterpreting what the other person said. He was talking specifically about offensive flags, like the F. Joe Biden flags. You know what I'm talking about, and things like that. When you have an F. Joe Biden flag, it just creates controversy, a lot of arguments. There's just really no need for it. Do you have a right to flag? Probably. I mean, I'm not saying you don't have a right to, but that's what they're talking about. I'm just saying, you're saying take away your husband's Navy flag. Nobody has said that. Nobody wants to take a military flag away from anybody or a first responder flag or anything like that. They just don't need to be here creating the controversy in a so-called retirement community where we're supposed to be living in peace and enjoying our golden years. That's what he was talking about. You fly that Navy flag, I'll stand behind you 100%. To the editor, recently I saw pine straw mulch increased in cost. The University of Florida, which is the definitive source of all things agricultural in Florida, recommends mulching every 8 to 12 months, not our current every 6 months. Cost increase, problem solved. Mulch 3 times in 2 years instead of 4 times. That's sent in by Peter Hacker or Peter Hacker, the village of Newell. Well, Peter, I got no problem with that. My own personal opinion is I don't like the pine mulch at all. I just think it's dirty looking. It doesn't last very long. When you have a hurricane or something like that comes through, the winds kick up, and if you had this fresh pine straw just put it around your fire beds, it blows it all over the neighborhood. I just don't like it. But it is the thing that they always do whenever they build a new house. You get pine straw. Okay, well, I think that's going to be it for the news this week. I appreciate everybody for watching the news and watching all my videos, actually. Subscribe if you hadn't subscribed. It's very simple. You can subscribe on your TV set. Don't tell me you can't. I do it all the time. And become a Patreon member right there, if you can do that. You don't have to, but you can join for as little as $2 a month. You'll get the news at least 4 times a month, and you'll get a lot of other stuff on there, and it's all commercial free. You'll get the invitation to come to our members' lunch. Oh, you get the private Discord. I got a Discord channel, and all my Patreon members get the invitation to come to the private Discord, and you can discuss anything you want about the villages, football games, basketball games. We don't care. Just keep it clean, have some fun. I'm on there all the time. Sue's on there all the time. She shares recipes on the Discord, and we just have a great time on there. And remember, it's open to you guys, all my members, for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You get all that starting out at $2 a month. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here and just say, stay well, be safe, be aware.
Don't leave your keys in the golf cart.